welcome. You join me in Italy where we're testing out the brand new Maserati Grecale. Now the Grecale is their new mid-size SUV that's going to take on the likes of the Porsche Macan, BMW X3M competition and the normal X3. But the car in question that we've got today is the Trofeo version, which has got a 523 horsepower, 3 litre twin turbocharged V6. Now, this video is going to be very straightforward and very simple. Maserati, over the last few years, let's be kind, has fallen off. They have made some great cars over the years, Quattroportes, Gran Turismos, but then we went for a middle segment where we went through Ghibli diesels and Quattroportes, but now it's got proper funding, proper backing. There's the MC20 supercar, which is getting raving reviews. Keen to have a go in that car. But then the one that's going to make them the most amount of money is going to be this, the Grecale. And it has got stiff competition. The Macan's been around for 8 years now, and yes, it's had different iterations and changes, but it's still dominating that class. And the Trofeo has to take on the likes of its sister, which shares the same platform, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Those are pretty hefty cars. So we're on some Italian country B roads. What we're going to do is we're going to see how it stacks up as a performance SUV, what it's like to live with, and come up with a round conclusion. So without further ado, let's crack on. So the Grecale Trofeo, let's start off with the performance stats and see what it's like as a performance SUV. So it's got the twin turbocharged 3 litre V6 that you find in the MC20, the Nettuno motor, but unlike the MC20 where it's pushing out 620 horsepower, this one's pushing out 523 and 600 newton meters of torque. It's got the best performance in its class, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, top speed's well over 170 miles per hour. And how does it feel? Well, with everything dialed in Trofeo mode, it feels very aggressive. It's running on air suspension as well too, and it's adaptive air suspension, so it's constantly monitoring the geo. It's got a torque vectoring 4-wheel drive system, which predominantly sends a lot of power to the rear, and on these really tight Italian country roads, it feels so lively, even though it's on winter tyres, which does affect its dry grip performance. It's up for a laugh. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be that good. It's so lively. The brakes, they're stills, but it stops really well. Wow, okay. This is just shy over 2,000 kilograms, 2 tons, and we're on some really tight, demanding roads, more tighter than your regular country B road. And I'll tell you what, I'm kind of forgetting that I'm in an SUV. In fact, I'm fully forgetting that I'm in an SUV. There's not too much understeer. The steering, yeah, it's a tad light, and it does 2 turns from lock to lock. So it's really sharp and really eager. It just means that you're not putting on constant lock. I love the fact that these column mounted aluminium paddles are there. They feel really nice. Brakes, the pedal feels nice and strong for a steel brake. The motor, it sounds aggressive, and it just loves to rev, this Nettuno V6. Maserati have done a great job at hiding the car's mass, and more importantly, you've got a good sense of communication of what the chassis is doing. There is some understeer and tighter corners, but you just get on the throttle, 4-wheel drive sends power to the rear, and off you go. It's very impressive, and yeah, it just eggs you on to drive it a little bit harder than you expect it to, which it's bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. You just end up behaving like a bit of a madman. Drawbacks? I suppose the steering could be a tad heavier for my liking, but then again, it's still, you know, you're not getting a great deal of feel, but even then, I can place it within inch perfect of how I want it to be. The air suspension's dealing with the bumps, but what I've had to do is in Trofeo mode, there's a button here, a damper button. I've had to put it in its soft mode because it does get quite hoppy. But even then, it's mega. This car runs the 8-speed ZF gearbox, and the way they've programmed the upshifts are near enough to the levels of a dual clutch. It's probably the best iteration of an 8-speed ZF box I've come across. Yeah, so far, so good. It's mega, absolutely mega. And that on top of the soundtrack, which I think is best in class out of all of them. Okay, it's not the most musical instrument, but it's so effective. And the way this thing goes, it seriously goes. 523 horsepower, more like 570, 580. Seriously, it pulls, properly pulls. So yeah, from a dynamic point of view, it's good, very, very good. Better than I thought. In fact, until I get to drive this in the UK, I'm not going to finalise what I think it is like, but I think the X3M's definitely in trouble, definitely. I think the Macan's just that little bit crisper, but it is a bit lighter than this car, granted, but this has just so much more theatre. There's just more life to it. It's brilliant. I like it. I do like it. The seats, they are supportive to a degree. They've got adjustable bolsters. Could do with a bit more bolstering, if I'm honest. But other than that, yeah, this is a very, very good car, especially to drive. In fact, as a driver's car, and as far as SUV goes, this is right up there with them. We've got the spirited driving out of the way. What's this Grecale like to drive the same way as how all sports utility SUV owners are going to use it, which is basically on the road, in town, school runs, that sort of thing. Well, for starters, sitting in the car is really nice. In fact, you can get a really good driving position. Maserati are quite adamant that any person or any size, whoever there are in the continent, can get into this car and feel comfy, and I kind of agree. The seats are quite good. They don't give you much support for when you're really throwing the car. However, just, you know, cruising about right now is okay. There's lots of tech in this car. I'm going to pull over and talk about that later on. But it does have the lane keep assist, which is an optional extra, along with the radar cruise control. I've got a lovely heads-up display, which is very clear. It's got really nice, cool graphics, and it's brilliant. I've got my speed. It tells me where I need to turn, etc. It's very clear. It's not too fussy. The same with this LCD display clock. It's not too fussy. It changes between different modes. You can have your MPG put up. You can have your CarPlay there. It can show you your maps as well too. It's got this cool clock. It can change, well, it's the same as all Maserati clocks over the years. However, this is the first time that this one is a digital one. But it can show you as a compass. It can give you like a G meter, all that really cool and clever tech. In terms of tech, Maserati have moved up a level, and they seem to be right up there with the BMW lot, which is actually very, very impressive. I've got a panoramic sunglass roof, which is quite cool, nice. The touchscreen display operation unit, it's a 12.1-inch screen. Then you've got an 8-inch screen down below, and that controls virtually everything: your lights, your lumbar support, your aircon. At first, it's quite tricky to use. Now, spending, you know, the best part of 4, 5, 6 hours in the car, you do slowly get used to it. The only thing I don't like is the fact that you don't have a column-mounted paddle or somewhere to select drive. You have to use these buttons down here, and doing three-point turns, as we found out today while shooting, can be a bit tedious. I would like a column down there somewhere. The 8-speed ZF gearbox is, like all 8-speed ZF gearboxes, it's brilliant. It goes through gears really nicely. It's nice and smooth. It's easy to modulate. The indicator ticks. Doesn't tick like any other indicator in a car. It's got like this. Can Can you hear that? It's an augmented sound. Never heard that before. It's quite cool. Ride comfort in the air suspension mode. Air suspension comes standard on the Trofeo. In the comfort mode, around town, the ride is on the, let's say, active side. It's not uncomfortable. Once you start speeding up above 40, 50 mile an hour, it does get into a rhythm of things. In Trofeo mode, with the dampers in hard mode, air suspension hard mode, it is quite busy. In fact, I had to dial it back at one point because the car was just hopping quite a lot. But yeah, to cruise around in, feels really nice. Doesn't feel like you're driving around in a big, lumpy SUV, which in an X3M competition you kind of do. And the X3M's competition ride, which I've driven, is, I'll be honest with you, appalling, absolutely bad. This one isn't. It's still firm, but it's not too terrible. The 3-litre V6, it purrs away. It's very, very quiet. Obviously, it shuts the valves off. It's even got that clever cylinder deactivation, so it can shut off 3 cylinders for better fuel economy. But yeah, everything's where you want it to be. However, the fuel tank is quite small in this car. In fact, very, very small. That is one complaint, 64 litres. And we managed to use pretty much all of it. When you do get on the move with this car, it can be quite thirsty, but then the 3-litre twin turbocharged V6, and if you're spending 80 or 90 grand on a car, well, fuel economy is not really going to be your problem. There's no blind spots that I can see of. A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, really, really good. Legroom in the back is excellent, largest in class. 570-litre boot capacity space, which is actually larger than the standard Grecales because they've got a mild hybrid systems. This one hasn't got that. So yeah, you've got plenty of space. Getting in and out of it's really good. Interior quality and design is quite nice. The design of it's really, really cool. Everything you touch is nice and soft. I can't hear any squeaks or rattles. And we have been driving it on some busy roads, and it's very, very refined. There is some tyre roar, but other than that, as something to daily about in and cruise around in, it's good. Really, really good. Top marks from Maserati. To get all of the drawbacks out of the way, let's talk about the styling. Yes, it's each their own when it comes to this sort of department, but the front end, especially those headlights, remind me of a Ford Puma oddly. The ride is a tad busy at slow speeds, even in comfort mode, but then again, it would be good to redrive this car in the UK just to confirm that. The infotainment system, it's not the best in its class, where a BMW iDrive system in the X3 or Porsche's PCM has a better touch response and speed to get from menus to sub-menus. But then again, it's a major improvement as Maseratis of old felt like it was lifted straight from a Nintendo 64. And though it's got an odd front end, the side and rear profile, especially in this particular specification, looks very classy. The highlight of the Trofeo is its performance and the way it drives. I know that's not how a majority of the buyers in the market are going to use it, but trust me on this, you won't be disappointed by the way it goes, stops and steers. It's way faster than the 523 horsepower figure suggests, and that paired with a metallic V6 soundtrack does add a sense of drama that, if I'm honest, its rivals can't match. It's safe to say that Maserati has finally got their A game on, and I'm not saying that in the traditional journalistic way of an Italian cliche, it wins your heart BS. It's actually a very competent and fun SUV to be in. If I was BMW or Porsche right now, I'd be very worried indeed.